And this is wonderful.
Aw.
This is like getting, there she is right there on the phone saying, oh, how are you, Shelley? How's your day going?
I'm so good. The day's perfect so far. Sunny, it just couldn't be better.
I'll tell you what, Shelley, I've interviewed some great people, very talented and storied songwriters, artists, producers, etc. And it doesn't really matter who I'm talking to. I get nervous every time I get ready. Kind of like you probably do, even when you start to write a song. It's,
you know what, Dean?
Yeah.
You know, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and there's still a little part of me that feels uncomfortable, not uncomfortable in a bad way.
Yeah.
But whenever I'm meeting someone new or getting into a room, I wonder, will I have what it takes? Will I be able to have the goods that day? And I always... I don't surprise myself. That would be the wrong word. I 99% of the time I come through, but I think it's sort of good at the beginning of that session to have a little bit of tension and wonder.
It's sort of that friction or that tension creates the magic sometimes, doesn't it?
I think it does.
Yeah.
I think, what is it? I think too much, if you're too self-assured or content, there is no tension with which to draw
Yeah.
an idea.
And even over the years, all the I'll get to what you do in a second, just in case people don't recognize the name SHELLY PEIKEN. It's I did when I that's how I knew to that's how my eyes and ears perked up, and I saw your name and I saw that you were going to be at a place where I could go to. That I didn't have to pay or be a member or anything like that.
Was it that at the Village?
Yeah, it was at the Village Recorder. And you know what? Herb Alpert was downstairs doing a serious XM broadcast.
There's a lot of history in that place.
Yeah.
There's still a lot going on.
Absolutely.
It's magical.
Yeah, the man who runs that place is very nice to talk to. Yeah. Anyway, I get off track, and you'll find that out very soon, that I get I get a little scatterbrained here when I'm talking. But when I look at I had to get notes on you only because I would not be able to memorize the long list of songs that you either co-wrote or wrote yourself. Most of them were collaborations, though, weren't they?
Most of them were.
Yeah. Do you find that comforting?
I like the company.
Yes. But
I like songwriters. I like the way songwriters think. I do love writing by myself. That's usually something that happens by accident. I love making plans, and I love being in the room with other songwriters of like mind.
Let's bring people up to speed on how great you are, Shelley.
If you say so.
Okay. No, I get like I said before, I get a little nervous. It's a little bit like meeting your heroes, kind of like if you got to meet, say, Todd Rundgren or somebody like that. You know,
I'd be speechless.
Yeah, you'd be going hama hama.
I would.
Speaking of which, well, see, like I was about to say something about Todd, but let's save that for a minute. You know, the 3 or 4 songs that you are lauded for or congratulated for is let's start with the biggest one. Number 1 hit in 1999 or something like that. What a Girl Wants. And then also Come On Over Baby. All I Want Is You. Fantastic. Now, was that second one? Was there? Were you only involved in the single version or the album version? Or was it two different?
All I want, Come On Over Baby. All I Want Is You. You're correct. What a Girl Wants. It was just Guy Roche and I in a room, and we started it from scratch and finished it. Come On Over Baby was a song that was finished, and I was called to see if I could, quote unquote, tighten up the lyrics on the verse. I wanted to make sure that the original writers, and there were quite a few of them, were aware I was being asked to do this and that I had their blessing, because otherwise jumping on somebody else's copyright is not really cool.
No.
And they were good with it, and I thought that they were pretty good as they were. But Ron Fair at the label heard it a little differently and wanted them to be a little different in certain ways, and I gave it a go. I wasn't a fool. I wasn't going to say no, thank you. Ask somebody else, and I seem to have come through with whatever he was, wanting or had envisioned it. And so I think that I'm pretty sure that the version on the original record is different from the single that was released to radio.
That's interesting. My daughter had the CD back then, and that's all I knew was the album version. But once I found out that you were involved in writing those too, because I like to look at the liner notes. I love to just sort of peek at who did it, because oftentimes you're very surprised to find out that the artist didn't actually write that song. You know, because a lot of times they have such confidence and they own that vocal that you think, oh, well, that's about her life or his life, you know. So that's interesting, you know. And you probably felt the same way. You probably go like, well, you know, you probably were, I don't know, fooled sometimes, thinking, oh, well, I was surprised that that wasn't written by that artist.
Well, you know, when I was growing up, I think I was under the notion that every song was written by the artist who sang it.
Right.
When I started buying albums and realized that there were things like liner notes, that there was like a material thing you could actually pull out and read, I started reading them. And I realized how many people were involved in a song. It was, you know, either just one songwriter or two or three, unusual to be four.
Yeah.
And the musicians and the producer and the engineers, and it was really interesting to have information like that. I usually was attracted to the artists who wrote their own material, singer-songwriters who wrote their own material.
Right.
But I'm very thankful that there were singers out there that didn't, because I was able to make a career from that.
You sure did.
Yeah. And of course, there are still artists out there who write, who are self-contained, that's what we call them, and writers who only sing what they write, and artists who like to merge with other song or singwriters to help them say what's on their mind. They might have a lot of great deep thoughts and a lot of ingredients, and they maybe need somebody from outside their world to help them bake their cake.
Yeah. Oh, nice. That's a good way you're putting all that. I used to. Now you've also. Did you win a Grammy or was nominated for a Grammy?
No, I was nominated for a Grammy.
That's good enough. That's
it felt like winning to me.
No, it isn't. You wish there was that cool little statue that you could put on your...
You know, that would be gravy, but honestly, that nomination felt like a win. In my heart, it was a win. It wasn't a win of the Grammy. It was just a win.
Yes.
You know, it was such a great feeling. I'm not sure how much more that statue would have made me feel. How much better it would have made me feel.
How many nominations was it?
One.
Was it just for Meredith Brooks' song? Oh, okay, good. And you wrote that with? I
wrote it with Meredith. I wrote "Bitch" with Meredith.
Bitch. Okay, now see, I gotta be careful. I'm sort of a G-rated. Not the show necessarily, but I'm one of those guys that I can't force myself to say these words.
Well, you could say "witch."
I know.
My daughter, like I had just had a baby, and we used to call it "witch."
Yeah. Well, no. What's interesting about and you make no bones about your candor in the Serial Songwriter, which is your blog that you have on ShellyPeiken.com. People can go there and read it, and I suggest people do. You don't mince words, but you do censor it with little asterisks when
I do.
So you're letting the people know that this is the way you might talk, but I'll be classy about this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I won't explain that any further.
That's what I do. That's what I do too. But you know, I have a multitude of or a diversity of people that listen, and I usually like to keep this show so that my mom can listen to it and won't go, "Hey, what are you saying that?" Yeah. But I invite you to please be as honest as you want to when talking about that, because I really like that.
You know, there's a lot of very young aspiring songwriters, so you know, I don't want to be vulgar in any way.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, with words and ideas, I'm going to express myself and say it how it is. But there's no reason that I need to use profanity. No,
and you know how to conduct yourself. Some people don't know any other way, and that's all right, I guess. But that's just not me. Listen, you were speaking of that, you know, when I'll get into songwriting questions in a bit, but I did have when you're trying to write a song and you're editing yourself, that's a I'm a perfectionist, and I tend to do that a lot. Is that inhibiting for a lot of maybe the young songwriters that you seem to be working with now, the or mentoring or whatever you call that?
To editing, you mean?
Yeah, editing. Like I want to say this, but I'm trying to figure out how to soften that. You know.
Well, I would suggest this to anybody doing any kind of art form. As soon as you have an idea and you're sitting down to express it, don't think about editing at all. Don't think about what people want to hear. Is it going to fit in? Will I be able to sell it? How does this sound?
Yes.
Just get all your ideas out, either on a recorder, on paper, on a computer, on a canvas, whatever medium you use, and don't edit yourself. It's actually, when you're doing that, you're working from the right side of your brain. You're just getting it all out, and it could be 20 pages. I've written 20 pages before of gibberish and found the title of my song or the real idea I was chasing on the last line of the last page. And it took 19 pages of, I want to say the BS word, but after our last conversation,
that's okay.
I won't.
That's
okay. Took 19 pages of you-know-what to get to the thing I really was looking for or waiting for. So I would say get it all out and then switch to your left brain and edit it. You know, very often on a 4-hour writing session, you don't have the time to do that. So you condense it. You know, you just say to yourself, you've got to trim the fat. We've got 4 hours. Let's just get it all out in the first hour and then look at what we have. Because if you try to perfect everything from the scratch, you haven't really gotten out of your mind and your soul the ingredients you want to work with. I would, you know, hearing myself say that, I think on a canvas it would be harder because I don't know how you erase the paint.
Yes.
But let's say with words and song, that's what I would do. And when I sat down to write the book, if I had a story to tell, I would do the same thing with a chapter. I would just block it out because you lose the detail. Just what is it I want to say? What are the points and the bullets I want to say? And then I go back and fill it out. Because you lose some good stuff if you think too much too soon.
Yeah, I'm glad you caught on to what I was trying to ask. I didn't ask it very artfully, but it was it's kind of like I sometimes I think I require a slap in the face to get myself let myself go and just let my psyche and my soul spill out. And I don't know how to do that too often. You know, it makes you feel uptight sometimes when you're like, why isn't this coming out like I need it to?
It does. Well, you might want. What do you write on? Do you write on a?
I'm very
old-fashioned handwritten.
It is a little. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I suggest you. Do you have an iPhone?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a voice memo in an iPhone.
Okay.
And just press record and talk to it because we could get a lot more words out. We can get words out of our mouths faster than you could write them down with your hand. And very often I'm writing down with my hand, like if I don't have a computer with me, if I'm in the supermarket and I get an idea, and by the time I get to the middle of the line, I've forgotten what the end of it was. I forgot what the idea was. If you're talking it out into a voice memo, you could get it out a lot faster.
Oh, yeah.
And there's less chance of forgetting what it was, the point was.
And don't even think about it as you're speaking, right? Yeah.
Right.
I sometimes would do. I learned something that's so obvious, but it's kind of neat when I heard somebody that I admire. Sting had said something about 25 years ago where he said he just gets up and walks out of his house and for about a mile and a half and just thinks, and it all of a sudden that's how it sort of he unblocks or gets himself straight. You know.
Well, I posted a little blog yesterday about that. I said if you have writer's block, got to get moving. Whenever I have writer's block, I go to Fryman Canyon. It's a little running loop up the road, and it's about a mile or two around. I just get out of my head, and by the time I'm around that loop, I must have 10 ideas, and I think it's the releasing of the commitment when you're sitting at a desk and looking at a computer, or you're sitting at a desk, or you're sitting anywhere, and you've got a pad and paper in front of you. It's almost like you're confined.
Right.
And when you get out there and your eyes are open and the world is moving in front of you, it gets your mind going. Very often I'm in a writing session and when I write with Michelle Lewis and we're stuck, she always walks out and says she needs to use the restroom, and I know that's not where she's going. She just needs to release herself from everybody staring at where's the answer going to come from. And very often for me, that line comes in the shower.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Driving, it's the place where it's least convenient, because our minds are very smart.
Yeah. And it seems, why does that disappear when you get out of the shower? I don't understand. You must have something. Yeah.
The other day I had an idea in the shower, and I just, in mid-shower, I said, I'll get clean later. I turned it off, and I just went out and wrote it, because you've got to capture that moment. And I just think that ideas elude you when you're sitting there waiting for them. You have to think about it and think about it and think about it and then ignore them.
These are great things.
They have minds of their own.
These are great things to know. How did you figure them out on your own, or did you other people that you associated with in the beginning, did they give you tips like that?
Oh, I think that we all realize it. Look, I'm still realizing it, and sometimes you know all that, but you forget it.
Yeah. Like
sometimes I'll be writing a song, and I can't get that line, and I can't get that line, and I tell myself I'm not moving on with my day until I get that line still. And I know intelligently that's not how I should do it. But until I just say, forget it and walk away and go start cooking dinner, and then I get the line, I remember it. It's, I think it's nice to be reminded. I think it's nice that we forget things that we know. It's because every time you remember it, it's sort of delightful.
Yes.
It's sort of like the answer keeps tapping us on the shoulder. Remember me.
And you do know this.
Remember me. It happens this way, and you forgot again.
Yeah.
It's humbling.
Yeah, that's true. You do forget, and it's kind of what you were all saying there was. It reminds me of what the Good Witch is saying to Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. You had the power all along.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes somebody has to tell you that. Yeah. So how nice. Wow. Time is running out here. Let me take a quick break, and can we talk about where you grew up and your journey out to LA and all that stuff?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay, great. Hold on a second here.